Just last week, 190 Democrats voted against 2 bills. Common sense. Expedite the deportation of illegal aliens who abuse service animals. They voted no. And those who commit fraud in our country. They voted no. With their words, their actions, their legislation, they tell you what they prioritize. And it is the welfare of criminal, illegal aliens over American citizens.
The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, talking about the Democrat plan for America to open the borders to all the gangs that'll come in and kill your daughters. Walking the beach in Chicago and the Democrat plans, sanctuary cities, sanctuary states, open borders, and after they're arrested, let them go. The Democrats. Crazy, man, crazy. Ba-ba-ba. Yes, sir. All right, now, it is Mailbag Day, as I mentioned. Didn't I mention that it's Mailbag Day? Because it is. And we have a lot going on. We really do. The Democrats, this is kind of a funny one. It's a little bit funny that the University of California, of Southern California, USC in Los Angeles, California, they were planning on hosting the gubernatorial debate last night, going to the candidates debate. And now it's turned out differently. Jonathan Turley, the law professor extraordinaire, George Washington University in Washington, D.C., he tweeted out, the University of Southern California, USC, is under fire after canceling the California gubernatorial debate with less than 24 hours' notice. And it was supposed to be held last night. And they said, maybe not. The reason, question mark, Jonathan Turley asked, none of the top polling candidates are people of color. They're not people of color. Wait a minute. So all the racists in California, when they're polled about who you'd like to be governor, there are no people of color in that. And so that led to a shootout, and everybody was killed. It was kind of third world, but there it is. And Jonathan Turley, he's out there. Wait, none of the top polling candidates are people of color. And invited to the debate, only if your poll numbers are strong enough to, make it realistic that you could become the governor. And isn't that amazing? So it's all over the Twitter. You might have seen today, USC just proved DEI isn't about diversity. It's about control. Sure. And Jonathan Turley said, I understand that USC had other partners, that is, they're dating, in this negotiation, but it could have moved forward alone with podcasted debate if other partners refused to join, if it stood by its race-blind, data-driven selection. That would seem the better alternative, you see. Isn't that amazing? And USC, they tweeted out, USC cancels gubernatorial debate due to absence of candidates of color. Candidates of color. That's the COC, the candidates of color, because they like their candidates of color. And what was missing here? Well, the COC, the candidates of color. Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. And amazing stuff. These people. California University cancels governor debate over blowback for candidates being all white. The racists in California, apparently the poll numbers show that California is racist. What else do these poll numbers show? That's all that they show. Completely racist. Mediaite. This is the left-wingers at Mediaite. All white is not all right, apparently. The University of Southern California abruptly canceled its planned gubernatorial debate that was set for Tuesday night after the college was criticized for all 6 candidates being white. Well, that way the electricity stays on, though, doesn't it? That's good. And air travel and instantaneous global communications and medical. Oh, I'm sorry. That's another topic. That led to outrage, in quotation marks, and blowback, in quotation marks, against USC and compelled the school to scrap the debate. No, it didn't. Less than 24 hours before it started, according to the New York Times. The New York Times. You know about them. Now, here's the thing. The school, the University of California, considered to be a serious university, allegedly. They said, well, you have to, because they got like 20 candidates running for governor, and most of them are mental. And they said, well, if you have poll numbers that are high enough, then you can participate in the debate. But we can't have everybody on the stage who just says, I'm running for governor, because that would be idiocy, right? So some Democratic lawmakers claim the formula the school used to determine who could participate is biased, the New York Times said. They had called on voters to boycott the debate. They had called on voters to boycott the debate if the university did not invite the excluded candidates. They have excluded candidates. Now, who do they have? The Los Angeles Times reported who was participating in the debate. The Democrats who were set to participate were Eric Swalwell, who is under the control of Fang Fang, his Chinese spy who came here and had sex with him for years to co-opt him and then took him from a city council seat in California to the House of Representatives in Washington and then to the Intelligence Committee in the House of Representatives. And he's a Chinese Communist Party operative, but pay no attention to that. That's all perfectly normal. So Eric Swalwell of Dublin and former Orange County Representative Katie Porter. Katie Porter was invited to the debate. She's the one who told her, 9-year-old daughter that the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon because of global warming, right?
I told my 9-year-old daughter that I was going to be speaking with you, and I said, what do you think about climate change? And she said, the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon.
That's good enough.
And I asked her how that made her feel, and she said it made her feel angry.
Angry, not sad or afraid, angry. She wanted to firebomb Jews because she's a Democrat. So she was invited, Katie Porter. She's horrible. She's the one who poured the pot of boiling potatoes over her husband's head. He's now her ex-husband. Because that might have had something to do with it. But there it is. But Eric Swalwell, he won. And Katie Porter, right, and billionaire climate change lunatic Tom Steyer. He's never held elected office, but he's rich, and he's white, so he could go. And the mayor of San Jose, Matt Mahan, and that's San Jose. He should be Latinx, shouldn't be? He should be a Latinx, I think. So those are the Democrats, the four Democrats, and they, then the Democrats who were set to participate. They condemned USC's selection criteria, but did not pull out of the debate because they had to object. There are no POC. There are no people of color here. Just Katie Porter, who's a lunatic, and Eric Swalwell, who's a Chinese spy, and Tom Steyer, who's a billionaire, and he's bought his way onto the stage, and San Jose Mayor Matt Mahan, I'm sure he's great at everything he does. Democrats, right? And candidates who were furious that they were not included include former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. Villaraigosa was he wanted to be on the debate stage, but Antonio Villaraigosa, he's not there. Former state controller Betty Yee. That's Y-E-E. Yee. That's very excited. That's what she yells on a roller coaster when they're going down and doing the loops and stuff. Yee. The ex-U.S. Health and Human Services Secretary is Xavier Becerra. I got to tell you, Asian and Latino shouldn't even be counted as minorities, should they? That's ridiculous. What if Latinx become the majority? Will we still call them minorities? Democrats will. I know that they will because they're racist. And the state superintendent Tony Thurmond, who is apparently African American. All four of those candidates are not white, and that they just say not white, and that's good enough. Because honestly, we're going to take away your electricity and your medical care. Just sit down and shut up over there. Who runs a better government? Since you're being all racist about it, let's look around the world. Where are the best countries? Where are the best governments? And then let's look at the race of the people that run those governments. All right? Shall we talk about that? And, in Cuba, they got no electricity except where the Democrats are staying in their 5-star hotels and all that good stuff. These people, can I just say? So this is what they're really upset. We are a minority-majority state. This is a quote. Listen to this from Yee. Her name is Betty Yee. We are a minority-majority state. What now? What does that mean? That white people are the minority? So they should be the only ones on stage, shouldn't they? Only white people should be allowed to participate in the gubernatorial debate because white people are the only minority left in the state. The minorities are the majority. And I've asked this question before. Why can't minorities just be more like majorities? Come on. It'd be really nice. Come on over here. The water's fine. Everything's great. We're normal. We are a minority-majority state, and the idea that the four candidates of color are not going to be on the stage to bring those perspectives, that people of different races have different perspectives. If you're a racist, see, there it is, to really speak to those communities, are they gated communities, is really not doing right by the voters. Ye complained last week. Ye do protest too much, don't you think? Ye do protest too much. Isn't that amazing? The two Republican candidates who were invited to the debate were former Fox News commentator Steve Hilton and Riverside County Sheriff Chad Bianco. He's Italian. Isn't that like being Latinx? Come on. Being Italian isn't like being Asian. They're such racists. And then the state, she says, is a minority-majority state. That means the real minority is the white person, and the whole thing should just be centered on the white people. Aren't they amazing? Boy. So they got two Republicans, Steve Hilton, and they just identify him as a Fox News commentator, right? And then Chad Bianco, Riverside County Sheriff, is a sheriff. He's in law enforcement. Democrats won't vote for him, but it looks like Steve Hilton could actually win the governor's mansion. It's happened before. Ronald Reagan, to name only one, and there have been several since Ronald Reagan was governor of California as well. Steve Hilton ripped USC's decision on Tuesday, saying in a statement, a Republican is leading in the polls. So what do Democrats do? Cancel the debate. What a total joke California Democrats have become. That's Steve Hilton. He's a Republican. He's running for governor of California. The USC people, they defended its formula for selecting the candidates in a statement, saying the methodology was based on well-established metrics consistent with formulas widely used to set debate participation nationwide. A combination of polling and fundraising. Well, the billionaire, I guess, comes out ahead on that one. He's a Democrat, by the way. And developed without regard to any particular candidate. What they're trying to say is we're not picking people based on race. We're picking them based on popularity, based on the polling, and fundraising, which is kind of a way of polling as well, you could argue at least. But the university is very defensive now because university added it is now looking for other opportunities to educate voters. They're educating voters. No, you're not. California will elect the successor to Governor Gavin Newsom later this year. Isn't that amazing? So they canceled the debate. There will be no debate because of racism, and the racism is coming from the Democrats who call themselves liberals and are always reliably racist because they're racists. All right, and I have, I have Mailbag. It is Mailbag Day. Mailbag queries, and I am examining the queries closely. Queries are different in California. So we got that. And sending troops from the 82nd Airborne to the region, the area of responsibility, so close to Iran. What is up with that? 82nd Airborne, All-American, and Mailbag coming up. We've got the Mailbag questions coming up. Lickety-split. In the meantime, I see it's funny because people are fun and smart. Let's go to the phones. Let's go to Matt calling from Rockville, Maryland. Matthew, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. They don't want to have the governor debate in California because it's not diverse enough. Go ahead and turn on an NBA game tonight for any of the teams that are in California and see how diverse that is. Or what about the LA Chargers? Their whole defense, their whole starting 11, they're black. So should we just start canceling things? Or are the people that are on the debate stage, or that were supposed to be on the debate stage, was that purely because they are polling better and it has nothing to do with race?
Well, see, you are rational and intelligent and correct. And then there are Democrats. Right, Matt? I mean, honestly, and they are the party of Jefferson Davis, and I know I say it all the time, but that's because that's not taught anywhere. And ask your average Democrat about Jefferson Davis and the Confederate States of America and the American Civil War, and they'll get every question wrong, right? And they view all the world through the lens of race, which is kind of ironic given they're the party of Jim Crow and Nathan Bedford Forrest and the KKK and the Confederate States of America and the American Civil War, where they were Jefferson Davis, the Democrat president of the Confederate States of America. Pretty amazing stuff. And look, Sheriff Bull Connor and during the Civil Rights Movement with the fire hoses and the dogs, an elected Democrat and leader statewide of the Democrat Party, George Wallace, Orville Faubus standing in schoolhouse doors. All the Democrats, all of it, Matt, is the Democrats. And somehow this is all washed off of them, hasn't it?
Oh, of course. And they fail to acknowledge that the first black female in Congress was a Republican. The first black male person in Congress, Hiram Revels, was a Republican. And to this debate thing, if everyone on the stage was black, would they be calling for the cancellation of it due to the lack of diversity?
That's perfect, Matt. That is actually, that's it right on the head. If it were all POC, if everybody were black or black and Latinx and black Latinx, Asian, Aleut, whatever they want, if nobody was white, would they cancel it because nobody was white?
Not at all.
But they canceled it because nobody is not white, which is what's the word I'm looking for, Matt?
Democrats.
Yeah, that's a racist. It's racist and it's Democrat thinking. I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. Thinking. They are amazing racists, and they're very proud of it. And they come out and they tell you, well, yeah, we're racist, but we're racist for the right reasons. Our racism is righteous racism. Next up, Mailbag. I'll try not to sneeze this time. I'll sneeze. They have a button for that here. I was in the middle of the thing, and then I sneezed. I reached for the sneeze button, but I missed it. There's a button here. It doesn't say sneeze button on it, though. It just says on and off. On and off. All right, as I said, I can't remember the last time I did that. That was pretty funny. I don't sneeze very often. I'm sneeze proof. It's part of being white. It's white privilege. I have my white privilege card. I have my white privilege card that a listener sent in. My white privilege card. That's pretty good stuff, I got to say. All right, now it is a mailbag day. Enough about all that. It's interesting how the Democrats make everything racist, isn't it? Yes, it is. All right, let's go to the mailbag because, this goes. I sometimes go on and on, don't I? Yes, I do. Let's go to Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Let's go to Brandon. Brandon asks, Chris, what do you make of the fact that all we've heard the last 3 or 4 days is that the 82nd Airborne, the All-American, 82nd Airborne, headed to the Middle East after every super-secret surprise we've been entertained with so far. Well, isn't it interesting that saying that you heard about this the last 3 or 4 days, 82nd Airborne, because we just learned. What did we just learn, Michael? We just learned that elements of the 82nd Airborne and the two-star general in charge of the 82nd Airborne. First, we heard that the two-star general in charge of the 82nd Airborne was deploying to the region, to the U.S. Central Command Area of Responsibility, CENTCOM AOR. And now we are hearing that the 82nd Airborne is deploying troops. And what are we hearing? 1,500 troops, I believe, is the correct number. And I got to say, this is ramping up, and in many respects, and not ramping down. Now it is, and President Trump. This is a weird situation for a lot of reasons. President Trump going after Iran, the world's number one state sponsor of terror, enslaving 92 million of their own people. They just gunned down at a bare minimum 33,000 of their own people. Other estimates have the number being much higher. This is a brutal, bloodthirsty gang of goblins running the country of 92 million people, working toward getting an arsenal of nuclear weapons, enriching uranium in secret, not for peaceful purposes, not for energy, one of the most oil-rich countries in the world. It's not about energy or electricity. It's about nuclear weapons to blow up the Jews and the infidels, honestly. And now we've got, an aircraft carrier. What do we have? The Abe Lincoln there, I think. We had the Top Gun Maverick on the TV the other night, and the aircraft carrier used in that movie is the Abraham Lincoln, the Abe Lincoln. And I was texting a Navy one-star friend of mine, hey, look at this. They got the Abe Lincoln, and the Abe Lincoln is on station just outside the Persian Gulf right now, running combat operations, all that. But now, and Iran has taken a beating, but they don't mind taking a beating because the leadership, they're a suicidal death cult. The Islamic Revolution, dying to them is something they're very much looking forward to. So when you blow them up, you're actually kind of doing them a favor. And then they find that there are 72 raisins waiting for them. And except the gay Ayatollah, he was infuriated to find out there are 72 women virgins, but that's another thing. But now we are learning that the New York Times, 15 hours ago, 2,000 U.S. troops from 82nd Airborne Division to be sent to Middle East. We've also deployed Marines, and we have a Marine, an expeditionary unit headed there, shipborne combat Marines, several thousand. And now we're talking about 2,000 U.S. paratroopers from the 82nd Airborne. President Trump giving the military more options. And is this leverage? I've got to say, let me say, Brandon, I don't think President Trump is a warmonger. I think he wants to do something big here. The Iranian regime has been a threat to the United States and civilization since 1979. And it would be nice to see Iran join the leadership there, join the family, the community of civilized nations. I think we'd like to see that because they're cool people. Iranians as a rule, Persians as a rule. I told you I ran into the son of the Shah recently, a few months ago now in Washington, D.C., had a nice conversation with him. And he's like, well, if they'd like me to come back and help, I'd like to go back and help. He lives in the United States now. And, I don't want to see us in a prolonged war. I don't want to see us in a ground war in Iran, which is, twice the size of Texas. It is much, much larger than Iraq. It is much more populous than Iraq. It is much more, on average, intelligent than Iraq, the people. And we don't want to fight that war. We want to see the Iranian people take out the regime and take control of their own country and their own government so that they are not a threat to civilization for the next half century, as we've experienced for the last half century, especially when they're working toward nuclear weapons and all that. And I'm for President Trump preventing Iran from getting an arsenal of nuclear weapons and doing pretty much everything we need to do to prevent that from happening. But Brandon asked, what do I think of the fact that we've heard last 3-4 days, 82nd Airborne headed to the Middle East? And then again, you hear these things leaked out all over the place, and that's a terrible thing. That's the leaks, terrible thing. But now, according to the New York Times, I think the number is more like 1,800, maybe even 1,500. But the New York Times was leaked around 2,000 U.S. paratroopers, 82nd Airborne, headed to the Middle East, to the region, probably Saudi Arabia, where we already have facilities, also maybe Bahrain and maybe even Kuwait. But Saudi Arabia is the largest and the most capable of accommodating. And we're talking about the UAE and Saudi Arabia and who else? Bahrain, maybe engaging in military operations, that is strikes against Iran, which would be interesting. Arab Muslims attacking Persian Muslims in war. Not that that's unheard of in the region. It's been a pretty normal state of being for thousands of years. But, Brandon, what do I think of that? I don't want to see this escalate and become bigger and bigger. I'd like to see it wrap up. I'd like to see the Iranian people take control. The Iranian people rise up against their terrible government. But that's hard. They've all been disarmed by the regime there, just as the Democrats want to do to the population here, and for the same damn reasons, just by the way. All right, and I'm not sure if I fully answered Brandon's question, but next question from Phil. Hi, Chris. There are a lot of people being affected by the Democrats' TSA debacle, the TSA defunding. You've traveled all over the world for decades. Do you have any travel horror stories? Gosh, I don't know. I don't really think of them that way. I've said a lot of the travel I've done on Air Force, U.S. Air Force airplanes, truth be told. I don't have any horror stories when it comes to traveling U.S. military, U.S. Air Force. Longest flight I ever took was aboard an airplane called the E-4B. E-4B, it's an Air Force 747. It's a doomsday plane. I think it's called Night Watch now. I think it's called Night Watch. The name has changed. And I flew nonstop from Andrews Air Force Base. It wasn't Joint Base Andrews, then it was Andrews Air Force Base. Nonstop to Sydney, Australia. 19 hours, 45 minutes. Refueling in flight twice. Once an in-flight refueling tanker took off out of California, refueled us. And then an in-flight refueling tanker took off out of Hawaii and refueled us. And we flew to Australia. I've jumped out of 3 airplanes. That's different, though. I did it willingly and on purpose. And there were parachutes involved and all that stuff. But TSA debacle, travel. I got to tell you, when I first moved to California, and I was 19 years old, I had just turned 19 years old, and I was living in Chicago. And I went to Chicago's O'Hare Airport to fly with my brother Patrick to Los Angeles, and then we were going to drive up to Santa Barbara. And there was a snowstorm. It was December. And I got to O'Hare Airport with my brother Patrick, and we spent 3 days in Chicago's O'Hare Airport in a blizzard where they were moving the flight time. Oh, your flight's been delayed for 2 hours. Then it was delayed for another 2 hours. Then it was delayed for 4 hours. And then 3 days later, we took off. And I remember it was Continental Airlines on a DC-10, a DC-10 airplane. And you don't see a lot of DC-10s anymore. The military still uses them as in-flight refueling tankers. But and we took off, Continental Airlines. And when we took off, after 3 days, everybody had been snowed in at O'Hare for 3 days. And when the plane took off, everybody on the plane cheered riotously and raucously. And it was yay, that's it, everybody took off. And it was so great because DC-10 was a big wide-body plane. And in the front of the airplane, they had a bar where they served drinks. And they had 2 women that were bartenders. And one of them, and they were in uniform, but they weren't in the airline uniform. They were cheerleaders, one for the Los Angeles Rams and one for the Chicago Bears. And they were dressed in their Chicago Bears and Los Angeles Rams cheerleader uniforms. And they were tending bar at the front of the plane. And you could smoke on planes then. Everybody smoked on the planes then. And it was December of let me see, of 1978, and it was just about to turn 1979. It was darn near New Year's Eve, and because when I landed on January 1st of 1979, in Los Angeles. Yeah, and that was the 3 days in Chicago's O'Hare Airport. That was no fun. But getting on the Continental Airlines DC-10 with the cheerleaders from the Rams and the Bears in the bar at the front of the DC-10 where everybody's still smoking, and I was still smoking then too, cigarettes. So up in the front, getting drinks, and I was underage, but I had a fake ID. And but the terrible part was the being stranded in O'Hare Airport. That's about all I can think of, because otherwise it's just the usual kind of flight delays. I got to tell you, these people, in fact, a young woman who's a producer at Newsmax was aboard this plane that crashed at LaGuardia the other day, coming back from, it was Montreal, I think, right? And a young woman. Now, that was, the only people that died were the pilot and the co-pilot, always the first ones at the scene of the crash, as pilots like to say. But, yeah, I've never had anything too traumatic like that. Just, so the only one I can think about it more, because it's true, there have been a lot of flights over the years, but have any travel horror stories? And I think of the Chicago thing, being stranded at O'Hare for 3 days. I think of it as being fun because the takeoff was so great, and then the bar and everybody smoking, and it was a flying bar with a bunch of people who were just glad to be out of O'Hare Airport. That was great. In the end, it was a happy story. All right, I got to keep going here. Thanks, Phil. That was a fun story. Or a fun question, rather. Not my story. Your question was fun. Laura in Alaska asked, regarding voter ID, didn't everyone just have to go to the DMV and bring a birth, marriage certificate, pieces of mail, and car registration? Didn't everyone just have to do that? Why wasn't that racist, misogynist, or unfair to minorities and women? Well, Laura, it is. It is. See, this is the Democrat answer is, it is unfair to minorities and to women and all that. Oh, I didn't even get to Mika. God, do we have time to get to Mika? Because I really want to get to that Mika. Didn't everyone just have to go to the DMV and bring birth certificate? Honestly, you want a driver's license, you move to a new state, you got to. When I went to California, I had to go in and prove all kinds of stuff to get my driver's license. Do you have the Mika thing? Because Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski yesterday, and they're really upset, and they say Mika's too dumb. She doesn't have a birth certificate. Her father was national security advisor to Jimmy Carter, Zbigniew Brzezinski. And, well, here it is. I'll let them try to explain themselves.
Not only does Mika not know where her original birth certificate is, which under the SAVE Act would get her kicked off the voters' rolls, and then she'd have to come back and re-register, and she would find out on Election Day that she could not vote. And by the way, don't be skeptical. Seriously. She had no idea where she was born. She still doesn't really know. Okay, but that's
not the story. This
Did your mom know? Sorry.
Yeah.
She never really knew. Yeah. It was the 60s.
It was the 60s. She doesn't know where she was born. Her father was an immigrant to the United States from Poland. And Zbigniew Brzezinski, terrible. He's the guy who gave us the Shah in Iran. He was Jimmy Carter's national security advisor. So good was he. Aren't they amazing? And Desert One gave us all that stuff. Oh, no, she doesn't know where she was born. She doesn't know where her birth certificate is. She never did. She did. You're already registered to vote. I don't think we're starting over with this whole election thing. If you're new to the country, if you move to a new state, and I was thinking about this. I know somewhere at home I've got my birth certificate. Christopher Mark Orteg, and my age was 0. It was 0. It was kind of weird. I was very young at the time. I was very, very young. It was important to me. I wanted to be close to my mother. At the time when I was born. And I'm going to find my birth certificate. I should post that, shouldn't I? All right, I've gone on, and now I've run out the clock. But fun, Laura. Yeah, don't we all? Yeah, we got to show driver's license. You got to show ID. You got to prove your identity all the time. But the Democrats are screaming and yelling that it's racist, and then they abort 40% of the black babies in the country every year to prove that they're not racist, right? But at least they got that California debate thing sorted out.
He could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think, and that is our job.
Yeah.
All right, I need to focus on the mailbag more. But here, Tim, I have more questions. I love this one. From Tim. Tim asks in the mailbag today, why is Jason still on the right squad? He's the liberal on the right squad. He's a college professor. He very seldom participates with the conversation unless directly addressed, and then he's totally negative. Well, I can't argue with that, Tim. You're 100% right about that. You know, it's this formula for TV shows, news shows like this, where you have to have a liberal. I don't believe that's true. I think it'd be a much better show. We have got a liberal or two that are not nuts, that are more fun. It's just a formula thing, Tim, and I don't agree with it, and I don't like it, and I've here's the broader question. Michael and I were talking about this earlier. Why is Jason still on the right squad? Why am I still on the right squad? I've quit like 45 times. I keep resigning. I resigned yesterday. I resigned over the weekend to the big boss. I keep resigning because I need to focus on radio and all that. So, and Jasmine's nodding. She was like, yeah, you need to focus on radio. She's telling me I need to focus on radio. Tim, there's no good answer to that question. There really isn't. Super Bowl W's. Super Bowl W's. Thank you, Tim. And I could talk about that for an hour. I promise you. I look forward to not being on television, coming back to my radio life exclusively. Super Bowl W's asks, what was Chris's favorite restaurant in Saudi Arabia, and did he ever dine there with that Saudi official that they threw gently into a fountain over there? Well, I was assigned to Dhahran in the eastern province of Saudi Arabia for 3 months, 1990. And honestly, Dhahran didn't have a lot to offer, so we would get in the car and we'd go to Dammam. We'd go to Dammam for restaurants. I'm making quotation marks with my fingers. And mostly everything was, kind of chicken shawarmas and street food, because the street food was good in Dammam. But we'd go to different places all the time, and we'd go ankle watching. We'd watch the BMOs, the black moving objects. That's not a race reference. They wear the black clothes for the women, from head to toe, and the black moving objects, and you could see their ankles. So we'd go down to Dammam, and we'd go ankle watching. That was fun.